Hello everyone, in this video I'll be ranking all of the Quarterstaves in Baldur's Gate 3 on a tier list. These are also known as a staff. Now they're meant for mostly wizards and sorcerers, however monks can benefit from them because they're considered monk weapons, and there's actually some staves that are good for warlocks as well. So I'll be going over all of that in this video, and the first one we got is just a regular old quarterstaff that you get from starting as a sorcerer or a wizard. And I'm going to put these in the roleplay tier. However, what's cool is the druid actually gets a unique looking one that looks like a tree stick there. But I actually put one of my favorite staves next because I just wanted to talk about this because it's one of the most underutilized staves in the game. So the Staff of Cherished Necromancy here. This deals 1d6 plus, so all these deal 1d6 damage, but if you two-hand it does 1d8 damage. You're not going to attack often with the stave, but with this one, the Staff of Cherished Necromancy, it also deals an additional 1d4 of necrotic damage. But the big benefit to this is it gives you heightened necromancy, so creatures will have disadvantage on saving throws against necromancy spells, meaning you're much more likely to hit with them. Also, it gives you the life essence harvest, and they actually didn't fix this until patch 6, but it used to be you could continually spam any type of necromancy spell and it wouldn't use spell slots using this. However, it got fixed and it's still extremely powerful. So whenever you take out a creature, you absorb its life essence, and that allows you to cast any spell without using a spell slot, any necromancy spell. What's huge about this is the necromancer wizard will heal for 18 if they use a level 6 necromancy spell, because it takes 3 times the amount of level. So you can heal for 18 with Circle of Death, hit in a huge area, and on top of all that, it doesn't affect any of your necromancy summons because they're immune to necrotic damage. Staff of Cherished Necromancy is the easiest S tier that I've seen because it's so useful. If you want to play as a necromancer, you pretty much want to be using this staff unless you're going with more of a melee build, but extremely useful. Disadvantage on necromancy spells and the ability to cast level 6 necromancy spells on repeat. Circle of Death is not the best spell in the game, but it's still extremely nice, and the fact that it can heal for you for 18 if you're a necromancer wizard is absolutely massive. Next, we got ourselves back to the earlier game ones. This is a nature snare, so this is just a regular old staff, but it gives you the chance to ensnare a target if it's not a plant or a beast, so you can use the ensnare spell with this. I'll put it in the C tier because it's not bad. Ensnare's decent, but it does use your action and bonus action, so that's a little bit unfortunate. Next, we got ourselves the Quarterstaff plus, or I guess this is just a regular old this is Quarterstaff plus 1. This is just I'm actually just going to put a Quarterstaff plus 1 in the roleplay tier because you're not going to attack with it. It does get a plus 1 to your attack rolls and damage rolls, but who really cares? You're not going to attack with this, so it's just as good as another roleplay one. Whenever you use a staff, it's basically a stat stick, so you get benefits from using it. You're not going to really attack with it too often, but just wanted to touch on these here now. So next we got ourselves, this is the Corellon's Grace, which gives you a plus 1 bonus to unarmed attack rolls and damage, and when the wielder is not wearing armor, they receive a plus 2 bonus to saving throws. This is honestly quite good. I might put it up into the B tier, maybe A tier, somewhere around there. As a monk, this is one of the best in slots that you can get early on in the game because you literally can get this from Auntie Ethel in the Druid Grove. And getting a plus 1 to attack and damage rolls on your unarmed attacks is really nice, but also getting a plus 2 to saving throws is huge. So I'd have to say this is B to maybe A tier. Early game, very, very effective. And next we got ourselves, I guess I'll move some of these down. We got ourselves the Rain Dancer. This is another really good spell, or another good stave. You get it early in the game as well, so I would have to say that it's, for what it does, it's good. It gives you a level 1 cast of Create Water. Now, Create Water is exclusive to like the clerics and the druids, but if you're playing as a wizard or a sorcerer and you do lightning damage, you're going to want to have this because it'll double the damage of your cold and lightning spells. For that, I would say it's probably B to A tier. Early on in the game, this is super useful. And yes, you can just use a cleric to get Create Water, but being able to cast it per short rest from a staff is really nice when you want to be doing a lightning or even a storm sorcerer build. So extremely useful early on, and could even be somewhat useful later on, but you do get better options like we have here later on in the game. You can get a robe that'll do you can do a level 4 Create Water, so that is good. I'll be showing off some of the looks of these staves as well, because they do have some unique appearances that I'll be touching on briefly in this video. And next we got ourselves Melf's First Staff. So this gives us a plus 1 bonus to spell save DC and spell attack rolls. That is kind of nice. And it gives you Melf's Acid Arrow once per long rest, a level 2 spell. Not as amazing, but the +1 to spell save DC and spell attack rolls is quite nice. So you got to give it. I got to give it some attention there. I might put it in the C tier, bottom of the B tier, maybe around C tier. +1 to spell save DC and spell attack rolls is really nice. So maybe we'll put all three of these. They all have the same appearance. Apologies for that. They all look the same too. Next, we got the Nature Snare. We got the Staff of a Mumbling Wizard. So this is cool. You get this in Act 3 from the Genie. And this is interesting. So it casts Firebolt with a question mark at the end. So basically what it is Firebolt, but it can also have a 1 in 20 chance of being Fireball. So now it only does like the 1d10 of fire damage, but this is a fun joke weapon. I think this is one of the cooler joke weapons because being able to cast a Fireball at random is kind of nice and can hurt your team, but I still say it's not the best staff, so I will just put it in the C tier because you're never going to use this late in the game because it's only a 1d10 Firebolt instead of the upgraded scaled one. So it does lack a bit of damage in comparison to some other spells that you could be using. So yeah, it's still funny. I'm going to put it in the C tier just because of the humor aspect of it. While it's not one you're going to use often, it can be a decent one at times. So yeah, I'm going to put it there. And next we got the Staff of Crone. So this is a story-based weapon. It's from Auntie Ethel, and it gives you a level 1 cast of Ray of Sickness, which not amazing. So I'm going to put it in the bottom of the C tier, maybe even roleplay tier, because yeah, if you want Ray of Sickness, you're probably going to get it elsewhere. But it's story-based, so that's why I put it. That's why it's on this list. But yeah, not the best staff. But next we got Big Boy's Chew Toy. This is what this one is, and it gives it a unique option with the Who's a Large Fellow. So the Who's a Large Fellow is basically enlarge the spell. So it gives you advantage on ability checks and saving throws when using strength, and the weapon attacks deal an additional 1d4 of damage. Now that's not bad. It's just not one that you're going to use often. I might just put it probably B tier because being able to turn large is awesome, and it could work on like if you're going with like a monk build, it can be good for that. But overall, not one you're going to use often. But still, 1d6 plus 1, and then the ability to turn large is quite nice. Next, we got Saxophony. C-A-C-O-P-H-O-N-Y. Saxophony. I don't know if it's a hard C or a soft C. This gives you Thunderous Smite, which is an interesting choice, but level 1 casting of Thunderous Smite. Now, the thing with Thunderous Smite is it does use your bonus action as well, so not something you're going to want to use often, but you can get this in Act 1 pretty early on, so this is an option you can go with, but not one that not one I use very often. So yeah, that is what it is. So I'm going to put it probably in the C tier. Thunderous Smite is good. I guess it also, no, I'm going to put it up into the B tier because it does deal a additional 1d4 of thunder damage. And that can actually proc some things like the, if you're going with like a Gloves of the Belligerent Skies build, it can proc that. So next, we got ourselves the K-Tiff Staff, which is interesting because it gives a +1 bonus to spell save DC and spell attack rolls, and you can replenish 1 Warlock spell slot per long rest. That is really good. So we got our first A tier here. This is purchased from Hellsick in the Devil's Fee. She sells a lot of really good items, but this in particular, as I said, Warlocks typically are going to use like a weapon because they can get an extra attack with Pact of the Blade. But being able to replenish one of your Warlock spell slots is really nice because you don't get many of them, but it can help out in some longer battles. So yeah, I think that is really good. Plus, it gives you the +1 to spell save DC and spell attack rolls, so you're much more likely to land your attacks. That's nice. Next, we got the Creation's Echo, and this is a staff that actually I can show off right here. So with this one, it looks similar to the Morning Frost, but the Creation's Echo here, as you can see, it looks kind of like the Frosty staff there. It's got that coolness coming off of it. What's funny about this is, despite having that cold appearance, so if the wielder deals acid, fire, lightning, radiant, or necrotic damage, it becomes resistant to that damage type for 2 turns. Notice it's missing cold damage. That's weird. It's a pretty decent spell, honestly. Being able to become resistant to it can be very strategic if you're going against like fire enemies and they're not resistant to fire. You can use fire and then become resistant to it. So I would say the Creation's Echo is actually quite a useful spell, or quite a useful passive ability. So with that, I would have to say it's another A tier one because getting resistance to a damage type can actually be a game changer, especially if you know you're going to be facing off against that damage type often. I wish it included cold damage, but I can understand it not. Next, we got the Despera Athkatla. Now, this gives a benefit that a lot of these other ones have. It has a +2 enhancement, which is nice, but again, you're not attacking with these most times. This gives a +1 bonus to spell save DC and spell attack rolls, which some of these other saves do. This is gotten from Lorokin. I'm going to put it in the C tier because that's a good benefit, yes, but in Act 3, you already have staves that are going to do that for you anyway, so why go for one without any extra other benefit when you could go for something else? So, yeah. Next, we got the Gold Wormling Stave, and this gives, or staff, this gives us a 1d6 +1 and an additional 1d4 of fire damage. So, you can get this from the Shattered Sanctum, or also in the Sorcerer's Sundries, and you can't actually dip this in a fire. It already has the fire built into it. And it looks like it's on fire too, which is pretty cool. Basically, what it does is it gives you the ability to cast Firebolt as a cantrip at will. And it has additional fire damage. It's not amazing. I will put it probably into the B tier just because getting a free Firebolt could be potentially synergetic on some builds. Plus, if you're playing as like a wizard, or not a wizard, a monk, you're going to have a high wisdom. And it'll lose your wisdom stat to cast it. So this does fire damage as well with the staff, so if you really want to attack with it and cast Firebolt, some synergy there, so I will put it into the B tier. But next we got the Hollow's Staff. So this gives disadvantage on saving throws against necromancy spells, similar to the Staff of Cherished Necromancy, which is awesome. It also gives you a level 3 casting of Arms of Hadar, and it does 1d6 +1 and a 1d4 of necrotic damage. So this is pretty good, actually. Much better than the other staff that looks like this that we get in Act 1. So with that, I would probably say it's a solid one. It is available in Act 3, but you can also rush and get the Staff of Cherished Necromancy, so there's no real point to using this over it. For that, I'll put it into the B tier because it is nice, but just not as good as some of the other staffs that we have on this list. Next, we have the Harper Sacred Striker. This is cool. It's a 1d6 +1, but it gives you a level 6 casting of Spiritual Weapon, which is a bonus action. Now, some people have talked about Spiritual Weapon sucking as a spell. I disagree. This spell will tank hits for your team, and it can potentially deal damage. Now, the best one to go with is a Spiritual Weapon Maul, because it can potentially daze the target. When a target is dazed, you're much more likely to land Hold Person on them. So I would have to say that Harper Sacred Striker is an A tier one because getting a level 6 casting of Spiritual Weapon is just really nice and useful in a lot of builds because Hold Person is such a useful spell. So if you can summon in that Maul, it bonks someone in the head, use Hold Person on them. They have disadvantage against that saving throw. Really nice for that reason alone. But yeah, that's not a bad spell not a bad staff overall. I think it's quite useful. So next we got the Pale Oak. Oh, this is the Pale Oak here. So this gives druidic vines cannot ensnare you and do not count as difficult terrain. And you get a level 1 casting of Faith Warden's Vines once per long rest. The Pale Oak's not bad. 1d6, no weapon enhancement. So you can get this from investigating Kaga and rescuing the Druid Halsin. So this Kaga will give you this. It's only available to Druids. Not a super useful staff. Like it's got benefits, like not being able to be ensnared is nice, but yeah, I'd probably say it's about C tier. It just doesn't have the benefit that some of these other staves have, so I have to say it's probably about C tier. Next we got Quarterstaff +2. As I've said previously, they don't have any benefits to the stat stick. There's no point taking them, so roleplay tier, because why would you want to attack with your staff when you got other options that you could attack with extra damage, like fire or necrotic? +2, not really something to care about. So, unfortunately, yeah. Next, we got the Staff of Interruption. It's a 1d6 +2, but it gives you a level 5 casting of Counterspell once per long rest. That is really nice. And, trying to think where I could put this. This is actually not a bad one to carry alongside you, because getting Counterspell for free is really nice. Although it's once per long rest, you never know. Stopping a fireball from hitting your team can be a game changer, so I will put this up into the A tier because Counterspell is super useful. It's similar, +2. This one's also a +2, so don't take a Quarterstaff +2. Use the Staff Interruption, get a free Counterspell out of it. Yeah, that's my thoughts on it. But next we got the Staff of the Emperor, giving you a +1 spell save DC and spell attack rolls, so nice. We like that. And when the wielder succeeds a saving throw against the foe that does it has to do an intelligence savings throw or be stunned for 1 turn. Now, when you stun a target, they can't take actions, reactions, can't move, they're stuck. So the Staff of the Emperor is actually really good. I would have to say it's a tier option, because if you can stun someone, that basically shuts them down, and that's off of a saving throw, and it's an intelligence saving throw. Intelligence saving throws are not ones that are going to be succeeded very often, so that is really nice in itself. Next, we got the spell Sparkler. So when the wielder deals damage with a spell or cantrip, they gain 2 lightning charges. This is good. Now, where this gets crazy is Scorching Ray counts as multiple damage hits. Eldritch Blast counts as multiple damage hits. Magic Missile counts as multiple damage hits. This is one you can get early in Act 1. I'm not a huge fan of lightning charge builds, but it can be useful. I don't know if it's good enough to say it's S tier. Someone may say it is an S tier item. I'm going to put it in the A tier, though, because on Magic Missile builds, you can stack up that lightning damage, and there's many ways you can build around that with like Gloves of Belligerent Skies, so many options for that. Not something that I use frequently, but it's still a really nice one to have, so I have to put it up into that tier there because, hey, it's good to use. I actually messed up the Rain Dancer staff. This is the Rain Dancer, so I guess I'll put that into the... I'll throw it in the B tier somewhere there. I'll try to find the one that I missed. Next, we got ourselves the Incandescent Staff. So this gives a ranged spell attack +1, gives resistance to damage or fire damage, and it also gives you Firebolt at will and Fireball per long rest. This is actually a really good staff because you get it in Act 2 early on. And for that reason, I'm actually going to put it up into the S tier. Now, resistance to fire damage is nice, but getting a free Fireball is huge that early in the game. And then also being able to cast Firebolt. This can work well on like a monk because you'll get a free Fireball out of it without having to go way of the 4 elements. And you can also cast Firebolt for free, just as utility. So that's actually a really good spell. I'd have to say S tier. But next, we got one of my personal favorite staves. I will show this one off because I love it. I love it to death. The Morning Frost is a really great spell, or a really great staff, because it'll deal that 1d8 bludgeoning plus whatever, and then it does 1d4 of cold damage. I love cold damage because you can set it up in so many ways. But basically, whenever you deal cold damage, you deal an additional 1 cold damage. That doesn't sound like a lot, but just think about how many times you're going to be casting spells with this that are cold. And it also, whenever you deal cold damage with a spell, possibly inflict chilled on the target. That is what's huge about this, because chilled will give vulnerability to cold damage. And then if you use Create Water, it'll freeze the target. So when they're frozen, you can use thunder damage, bludgeoning damage, or force damage, and they're vulnerable to those damage types. So multiple ways to set this up. It's actually crazy to think about because chilled gives the enemy vulnerability to the cold damage. So you can do another cold spell and they'll take double damage. But on top of that, you can also freeze them. And then if you have someone with like a big hammer or thunder attacks or really any force damage, disintegrate, you can double the damage to that, which will basically one-shot most people. It also has a weapon enhancement +1, gives you a free casting of Ray of Frost at will. Extremely useful, and it deals cold damage itself. You can get this one in Act 1 really easily. Well, not really easily. There's actually some steps involved, but I would have to say that this is S tier. Morning Frost is huge. I love cold builds. If you've seen any of my build guides, you'll know that. I get comments on it all the time where people are like, you're obsessed with cold builds, because they're good and they're fun. So the Morning Frost is honestly a whole lot of fun to use. S tier. Next, we got the Staff of Spell Power, +1 spell save DC, spell attack rolls, and it gets Arcane Battery. This is actually a really good one if you want to go dual wielder and give Gale 2 staffs. Give him that good old-fashioned the Gandalf vibe with 2 staves or staff and a sword. Basically, it gives Arcane Battery, free spell cast. So that's a free Chain Lightning. That's a free Cone of Cold. That's a free Circle of Death. That's a free level 6 Mirror Madon Elemental Summon. That's a free Create Undead. There's so many ways you can use this, so I'd have to say this is S tier as well. And it does 1d6 +2, so it's got that nice +2 enhancement. On top of all that, +1 to spell save DC, spell attack rolls. That's awesome. Next, we got the Staff of the Ram. Once per turn, the blow possibly knocks a foe back 2 meters, stunning them. This has no effect on dragons or huge creatures. Staff of the Ram is really good. Being able to knock a creature back and stun them. Basically, when they're stunned, they can't take actions, reactions, can't move. They're stuck. I'm gonna have to say A tier for the Staff of the Ram because it's just a nice ability to be able to stun someone. So this is in Jaheira's hideout. Highly recommend going there because you'll get the Belm as well as a necklace that gives a +1 to wisdom. So go do it. Just do it. Next, we got ourselves the, I guess this is the Woe. Woe is me. I'm so woe. So this gives a +1 to spell save DC, spell attack rolls. Awesome. It gives arcane vampirism. So whenever a creature affected by your spells fails any associated saving throws, you regain 1d4 health. I'll actually show this staff off as well because it looks cool. This is in contention for the coolest looking staff in the entire game because it has this little let me unattach. It has this little gargoyle dude on it. Like, that is just a cool looking staff in general. So style points, they matter. This is an important thing to look at because not many staffs have this unique look to them. So yeah, for that, I would say it's pretty solid. But what's nice is whenever creatures affected by your spells fail the saving throw, you get health back from it. And it also gives you a level 4 casting of Blight. Blight's not the most amazing spell. It does 8d8 necrotic. A lot of creatures are resistant necrotic. And plants take maximum damage from the spell and have disadvantage on the saving throw against it. One weird thing is most of the plants in Act 3 are actually resistant to necrotic damage. So yeah, that makes it less amazing, but still pretty good overall. So I'd have to say it's an A tier item because one looks cool, but the +1 to spell save DC, spell attack rolls is awesome, and then the 1d4 healing that you get per save whenever the enemies fail a saving throw is also amazing. So yeah, that is a really great staff. I think I missed one here. I'm just going to quickly look through before we get to... Oh, yeah. Staff of the Arcane Blessing. I didn't miss this one. This is an early Act 1 staff. So what it does is it gives you Mistra's Blessing. Creatures that you bless will get Mistra's Blessing, getting an additional 1d4 to spell attack rolls. If you lose the concentration on Bless, you actually keep these bonus to spell attack rolls. This is a one you can get really early on in the game. It's in the Arcane Tower. I'm actually going to say this is an S tier one as well. Mistra's Blessing is really nice to add, and it gives you the ability to cast Bless too. So that in itself is really good. But now we have the best staff in the entire game, which I'll show you guys here. So this is the Marco Heschker, and what's nice about Marco Heschker is you get two huge benefits, actually multiple huge benefits from it. So gives a +1 to spell save DC, spell attack rolls. That's nice. It gives the Arcane Battery, similar to another one I put up in the S tier. So free level 6 spell slot. That's massive. Being able to cast a level 6 spell is huge. But it also has Kreska's Favor. And this is where the weapon goes from being S tier to S plus tier. So basically, you can use this Kreska's Favor here. Per short rest. Mind you, short rest. Ridiculous. And you also can choose a damage type, which will add your proficiency bonus to that damage. So Acid will get a +4 to Acid. My two favorites are Frost of the Dark Winter and Bolts of Doom. Now, they also have extra benefits on top of that that's not even listed here. So whenever you do Frost of the Dark Winter, Bolts of Doom will give you lightning charges on your lightning attacks. I'll just show you this. They give you free castings of spells too. So I get my head's in the way. You get a free casting of Cone of Cold. You get a free casting of Ice Storm. Ridiculous. But you also get the Conduit of Kreska's Ice. So we become resistant to cold damage. Its cold spells deal additional cold damage equal to proficiency bonus. When it deals spell damage, inflict 1 turn of frost upon the target. When attuned to Kreska's Ice, it can do Cone of Cold and Ice Storm. So not only do we get ourselves a free level 6 spell, we can get Cone of Cold and Ice Storm. Now, if you choose the lightning one, it gives you a free Chain Lightning and a free Lightning Bolt, which are two really good spells as well. All for free. And it also makes the weapon look really cool there. So it coats it with whatever damage type you used. This is by far the best staff in the game. I could talk about this all day, but just know, get it in Act 3. Just get it. Do it. Do it. You won't regret it. This weapon is a whole lot of fun to use. It works on any magic build. And for that, it is the best staff in Baldur's Gate 3. Without a doubt, the best staff. So, yeah, if you found this video useful, please hit the subscribe button below. Really appreciate all the support. Thank you so much for watching. And I guess I'll see you guys all in the next video.